Okay, so this is the 15th video for the Jagdpanther tank destroyer. We're going to do some of the detailing for the rear hull here. There we go. And I want to start out, because this is going to have to dry anyways, with some 8-ring caps. Now this is a bit of a challenge to get used to doing, but you'll find it easier after a while. I really recommend, because this can often make the caps explode, that you put a little bit of water inside the caps before you start doing this, and that will prevent them from blowing up in your face. So you want to take a scraper blade and you want to cut the edge off the side of the 8-ring cap, and I use the ring that it's attached to as a guide as to how to cut it. So I'll cut it from the top, and I'll try to cut, hopefully you can see this, straight down and take off all of the ring. And that is a good guide that helps you get the caps the same, which is pretty important. And then once you've got them cut, sort of lay the two caps that you've cut beside each other, and you'll be able to tell, like, if you've cut them the same or if they're a little bit off. Now these appear the same. They're a little bit skewed. It's nice to have them semi-flat, and try to leave as much of the cap as you can intact, because you are going to be slipping a round toothpick inside of them once they're attached to the hull. So once you have those pieces, you want to glue them. Well, actually first it's best to take a 7mm hole punch disc that's just been punched out of cardboard cereal box, and I actually recommend putting that in the center first here on that circle, and then you can kind of use that as a guide as to where to place the 8-ring caps. The only reason you're going to need a guide with these symbols on here is because quite often you will not be able to see the symbols once you put glue on here, because you want to use lots of glue. You want these to bond right there. And so you might obscure the symbols with the amount of glue that you will use. And basically the 8-ring caps go right up against the 7mm hole punch disc. And so you can kind of rest them against it and then move them out a tiny bit. Most important, more important even than following the symbols, is trying to get them to match each other. Not always easy. You have to mess with them a little bit. And once you're satisfied with their position, let them dry. You do not want to mess with them anymore. While you're waiting for them to dry, you can, however, cut a 13mm length of pencil lead. Now I'm using 0.75mm pencil lead, just because it matches the size a little bit better. You can use the 0.5 with the really cheap stuff, but I found the 7.5 matches the size of this piece a little bit better. And you just want to install that bottom of this door and adjust it so it's like sitting not right along the bottom, but sort of centralized on those lower expansions to the door area. And also let that dry nicely. Now, I sort of forgot to put this on last time. There is a little piece here that goes up against that round bit, and that is just a 3mm long bit of cue card paper. Now, let that stuff dry. I believe that's all the pieces. And you're going to cut a 14mm bit of round toothpick. Now, I actually recommend that you sand down the toothpick a little bit before using it. It's just almost impossible to do it later. And it is nice to have a nice round one. So this has already been pre-sanded. The other thing you might want to do before you cut out the 14mm piece is take your smallest drill bit and sort of like you did when you're doing the main gun, just kind of get an impression, a concave impression on one side, the flat side of the toothpick. And it's just a little bit easier to do kind of before you cut it out, because that way if you strip off the side or you mess it up somehow, you can just cut it off and try again. And as I said, this should be 14mm. Now, what I recommend doing is actually cutting one marked one and then cutting the other ones to match it. Even though you can kind of, like, the bottom part is hidden underneath that 8-ring cap. So you can sort of adjust them up and down to match. It is nice to have them matched to start. Now, I believe this is the dry one. Oops. Once you have your two pieces with the concave pipe end, make sure you know which end that is. And you want to install those sort of starting underneath the caps and following these lines up. Now, if you really want to be historically accurate, and it's not going to be a model that's put in delicate position, you can, like, okay, these pipes actually turned slightly back as they crested the top, so they should be like angled back away from the hull top. But the only way that I've figured out that you can do that is by like letting spaghetti get soggy, sort of working a bend in one end of it, letting it harden, and then you probably had to make lots of pieces to get two that are similar, and then you can install the dry spaghetti with the bend in it as these pipes instead. The only thing is you'll have a hell of a time getting a concave surface with a drill bit, so you're going to have to just wing it when you're painting it. But it is a cool and different solution to that problem. You're going to need a length about 2mm long of the cue card paper, and you're going to need to take it, and this actually just makes the installation a little bit easier. Sort of take the end of a skewer and lay that little 2mm length piece on your finger and roll it under the end of the skewer to sort of round it a little bit. And do that to both pieces. It can be a challenge to even just pick them up, they're so small. Just get a slight rounding on there, and that will make it easier to install. what you want to do is install those right at the ends here before it actually goes onto these extended door bits. You want to take these rounded pieces and sort of, oh, that's not the right piece. Here's the rounded piece. Cup them around right at the door edges, the hatch edges. Cup them around this piece here. Now, it can be a pretty big challenge to get. So basically what I would do is I'd push them in at the bottom and just let the tops sort of hang free until the bottom's dry. Slip some glue under the top and then push those into place so it hugs this little bit of pencil lead all the way around, and that will finish the rear hatch and the hull back. Okay, thanks for watching, and see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye for now.